Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Gavin, the Director of Public Communications for the City of Savannah, and it is my pleasure on behalf of the Mayor, Council, and City Manager to welcome you to today's groundbreaking ceremony for the new Windsor Park and Dog Park. The new 5-acre park will be a tremendous addition to the Windsor Forest community as well as surrounding neighborhoods, and is being paid for by voter-approved SPLOST funds. Future amenities will include a dog park, walking trail, playground, and public access areas. The park is located in Alderman Tony Thomas's 6th District. In addition, this park aligns with the City of Savannah's new strategic plan. Our Mayor and Council made neighborhood revitalization one of its top 5 priorities, which includes preserving neighborhoods and providing access to recreation. I would like to recognize some of the distinguished guests who we have with us today, beginning with our Honorable Mayor, Eddie DeLoach. Also, as I mentioned, Alderman Tony Thomas, who represents the 6th District, Mayor Pro Tem Carol Bell, Alderman John Hall, Alderman Brian Foster. Also, our City Manager, Rob Hernandez, and a couple of his chief officers are here today, Marty Johnston, our Chief Operating Officer, and Heath Lloyd, our Chief Infrastructure and Development Officer. We also pleased to have Parks and Rec Director Barry Baker, if you want to raise your hand, is over there. Sanitation Director Jean Pravat and Greenscapes Director Gordon Denny is also with us today, as well as many other city staff who helped make today's event possible. We also have Neighborhood Association President Jackie Haberman here, who you will hear from in just a few minutes. But at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mayor Eddie DeLoach.
Hello, everybody. It's a great day in the city of Savannah. I said whenever we came into office, the one thing we wanted to do was not to talk about what we were going to do, but to talk about and look and see what we have done. And I think this is going to be an example of one of those things that I want you to hold us accountable for. We've got a list of things that we said we were going to try to attempt to do. When we came into office, council agreed with those items and we were working towards them. I think one of them that I recall, the biggest one is you got Joe Tribble Park. You know, what Tony said, it's been on the books for how many years? 10 years?
Yeah.
Not funded for the last 10 years. Well, we funded it this year, and we want to make sure we get it done in the near future. Hopefully we can get started on it this year and work towards getting it completed by the end of next year. And I think that's one of the main goals we've had coming on to council, was to make sure that if we attempted or we agreed to get something done, that we made an attempt and we moved forward with that program. I think that's what's critical about what we're trying to do here today, is to revitalize our communities and our neighborhoods. Windsor Forest should be one of the showcases of Savannah. It has always been, from the west side where I grew up, it was always the place you wanted to live. If you ever wanted to move from the west side to Savannah, you wanted to live in Windsor Forest. And I think we need to make sure, with the development of our landscaping crews that we're putting out there, that Gordon Denny is going to make sure does a wonderful job this summer to keep the grass cut like it should look, get the trees trimmed up like they should look along the road there. I think we're going to have a lot better looking neighborhood, and I'm looking forward to the day that we can all talk about how great our neighborhood has come back, because there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of people that have been here for years that deserve this, and we're going to work hard as far as the city's concerned. I know Tony is, and I know we'll be behind him, and the council will be working with him to make sure that we make this a neighborhood that we can be proud of. We also have the same thing happening on the east side, over in Edgemere, Sackville area. I had to think about it, but I knew it. Anyway, Edgemere, Sackville area, we're putting a large sum of money into that area so we can lift that area and make it into something that people can be proud of. We're going to do the same thing in all of our neighborhoods as we go forward. So thank y'all for being here. Let's look forward, and you make sure you hold us to make sure we do the results we say we're going to do, okay? Have a great day. Bye now.
And now the person who wins the award for Best Day in February to have a groundbreaking, Alderman Tony Thomas.
I can't take any credit for the weather, I'll tell you that, but it is a beautiful day. First of all, I want to say thank you to the members of council that are here and the members of council that have been supportive of these initiatives. What you see here is really a great start for what we want to do to create something great. But I want to say a special thanks because it must have been about 6 months ago that Rob Hernandez and myself and where's Heath? Heath, come on up here closer to us. I want people to see you. You see this guy riding around in your neighborhood, this is the guy y'all need to be talking to because he's working hard for the city's behalf, but he's an ideas guy and I love it. But these guys, Heath and John Sawyer, that I know is not here, have all played a big role in where we are today. And, you know, from the neighborhood, though, I could tell you that anyone can try to take credit for doing things, but if you don't have a strong neighborhood and a strong neighborhood voice and group behind you, you can't do anything. And I cannot say enough about the lady you're going to hear from in a minute, Jackie Haberman, who has tirelessly worked hard for the benefit of this neighborhood. And her board is here. I want, if all of the Windsor Forest neighborhood board, if you could just raise your hands where everybody can see you. These folks, there, this is your backbone of Windsor Forest, and this is why things get done in neighborhoods, is because they stay with the issue, they stay on you, and they stay committed. I kind of have a park emeritus, or a park ranger emeritus here, Virginia Joyner. You raise your hand, Virginia. Even though this is at Tribble Park, there's not a person standing on this soil today that knows more about Tribble Park than that lady right there. So I know that when this is all over, we're going to huddle. I said cuddle. We're going to huddle and talk about Tribble Park for a few minutes. But working with partnership with the Windsor Forest Neighborhood Association, this is what's made these type of things happen. I can't say enough about the council, because if the council wasn't committed to seeing these things happen, we would be derailed and we would not do it. So thank you to all the members of council for that. How did we get here? This is a sacred area of land to this community right here. On June the 29th, 1999, there were 6 foot of water where you're standing right here. We had a 100-year storm happen. It hit this area. And this area did not have that canal that you see at that time rolling through it. So this entire area was 6 feet underwater. What you see in this open area is where dozens of homes used to stand. All of those homes were underwater during that event. So the city at that time, Michael Brown was the city manager, we approached the feds about a FEMA buyout for these properties. And we were granted that. And other parts of the city, in Van Johnson's district, in John Hall's district, we had FEMA areas that we bought properties, but I don't think that we really understood what those grants meant. By buying those residents out and moving them to other areas that had repetitively flooded, we created holes in neighborhoods that we could do nothing with, and they became blighted maintenance. I guess that would be the best term for it. And what you're standing on today was becoming one of those blighted problems where we had illegal dumping and other activities that were occurring. Now, this is a beautiful piece of property. Michelle said it's almost 5 acres. I thought it was more like 3, but I'll take 5. But, you know, if you look, I mean, it's been cleaned up, but you can see where piles of debris and rubbish have been deposited. But this is the challenge that we face in every district in Savannah of having to clean these properties. So finding ways to make valuable use of these properties for our residents is what we would like to do to prevent having to go back and send crews in to clean it up. Now, to alleviate and eliminate the structural flooding problem, the City Council, using SPLOST dollars in 2000 to 2004, invested over $30 million in Windsor Forest. They dug the Windsor Canal, is what we call this, and basically today we have no structural flooding in Windsor Forest. We still have isolated road floodings in areas, but there is no structural flooding in this community because of the efforts that were made a decade and a half ago, and because of that penny that you pay that you put towards SPLOST. So if you don't think there's penny power, the reason we're here today is that for this park and for that flooding then is the power of that penny back then. Did y'all hear that? You know, I consider this the greatest, one of the greatest of days is when you can come together as a community and come together to dedicate a public space that's going to be enjoyed by current but also future generations. What we're doing here today is breaking ground on a vision that really began 20 years ago. Across the small canal right here, you'll see the old broken fence, and it used to be the old swimming pool. Then it became a skate park, and then it became a blight in the neighborhood. The city in December finalized the purchase of the old skate park that was there, and in January, just a couple of weeks ago, we demolished the old pump house that was still left standing that had become graffiti, and we're in the midst of cleaning that site up. That site was purchased by the city, and the house that's immediate to it was also purchased by the city. And that site that's divided from this property is being warehoused for the future, for the site for a future resource community / center over there that will be determined at a later date using hopefully penny money or capital money wherever we have to find it. But there's something more special about that site. And Rob, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but Jackie Haberman and myself stood on that property 19 years ago, and we had the city manager of the city at that time. We had Joe Shiraz with us at that time, and we said, we want to give you this property as long as you will maintain it, as long as you will clean it up, and as long as you will make it into something that is good for the community. Well, they both shook their head and said, we don't want it. We don't want an old pool. We don't want an old structure. We don't want any maintenance issue. So we had to devise a plan on what we were going to do in order to clean it up. Now, there have been highs and lows in the way that story is told to the public. But the reality is we are here today because of what we did back in 2000 and 2005 to clean up our neighborhood and preserve it, scratching our own pennies out of the ground to make that area and sustain that area over there. So the city's purchase of that property and this park combined together creates a footprint for a multi-generational complex that in the future will be one that's unrivaled anywhere that I can think of in the community. So I'm very proud of that. Today we're here on phase 1. This park has a canal that divides it. Part of the vision that we talked about is spanning a bridge or walkover over that canal, and a future phase down the road could include a greenway walking trail that would extend all the way to the Vernon River and allow folks to basically start out at a senior complex or a neighborhood complex here, walk through this entire park, cross the canal, walk all the way down to the Vernon River, and connect other areas like in the 4th District and all for people to continue a greenway all the way through this southern side of this community, which is exciting. But that's the future. Today is where we're here and what we're talking about today. Now, I'm excited because this park will have a walking trail. It will have a playground for kids. It will have the benches. All of the trees will stay that you see. I don't think, are we taking many of the trees down? I don't believe we are. But most of these significant trees that you see will stay in our park. The greatest addition to this will be the dog parks. We will have 2 dog parks here. We will have a dog park for small dogs and a dog park for larger dogs. And I cannot tell you how excited I am that our people, the staff of this city, can think outside of the box. As I told you earlier, we have a very difficult time dealing with FEMA lots. So our staff went to FEMA. Our staff did all of the legwork to try to get them to allow us to build the fencing that is required for a dog park, and FEMA turned us down. They said we couldn't do it. So the staff huddled and came back, and they said, well, you know what we can do? We can cul-de-sac Linwood, we can cul-de-sac Woodley, and we can take the road up and create the dog parks using the roadway. So the dog parks will be in the road that you walked on coming up here. That will become the dog parks. Of course, it won't just be asphalt. There'll be dirt there again. And it will have a water feature to water your dogs, to bring them out here and water your dogs. But it serves so many of the priorities of this council. One, neighborhood revitalization, but also traffic calming. We are calming the traffic of speeding going down Woodley Road to take the shortcut going to Largo. And I see Tiger back there that lives on Deerfield and Woodley, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. But this will slow the traffic down that's speeding through there, and will provide all of the things that Eddie had talked about up here that were council's strategic priorities. So this is a win, win, and win again. So this park is great. Now finally, the addition of this park, it marks the 4th city park that Windsor Forest will have. We have the Joseph J. Tribble Park, which the improvements are already underway. In fact, I was over there earlier today and looked at the parking lot that's currently under construction. And we have security cameras, which have been wished for a long time, that are coming into there. We also have a fountain feature. Many of you know what the Daffin fountain looks like. That we're actually placing a feature like that at Tribble Park. So you will have the Joseph J. Tribble Park. You will have the John Henry Murphy Park, which is a passive park off of Arlington Road. You will have the Chesterfield Park, which is a natural park. It's on Chesterfield Drive at the end of Windsor Forest. And then you'll have Windsor Park right here, which will be an active park that includes the amenities that we talked about earlier. So I'm excited. I just can't tell you how much I'm appreciative to all of the people that have been a part of this journey. And you just have to have a little vision and focus to see the future. When we complete the puzzle here, this is going to be one of the nicest city additions that we have ever done on the south side of Savannah. And as for them dog parks, Mr. City Manager, thank you for keeping your commitment, and staff and council, to looking at the city of Savannah beyond south of the rim. Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to introduce the Neighborhood Association President, Jackie Haberman.
It is such a privilege to be here with all of you and for the event that's about to happen. It's unbelievable that this area was, I remember the houses and the people, and then the flood, and then Virginia Joyner and I helped plant some of these trees. Remember that day, those 2 days? Anyway, I would look at it as I drive by on Woodley sometimes and think, what are we going to do with this vacant land? The people that have deposited things that are unmentionable were using it, and our neighbors couldn't. Well, Tony and I started talking about this. He's a man of ideas, and he always follows through. But I would say, probably following when the houses were torn down, he said, we've got to use that land constructively for the neighborhood. Well, about 18 months ago, Tony called me. He said, Jackie, I have a plan. And that's what you've heard today. And it's exciting for us. It's going to be a gathering place for not only our neighborhood, but the south side. As you heard how it can be used by so many. And as I was thinking, coming over here, imagine just a year from now, when you walk in here, you're going to see mothers with their children and walkers, because I imagine that will be one of the first things we get is that route so that they can at least have the walking route. And then the doggies, we probably will hear some of them. It's just so exciting what's going to happen for our neighborhood and the South Side. And I want to thank Mr. Hernandez. I want to thank the council. But most of all, I want to thank Tony for coming up with this fabulous idea and following it through. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if everyone will turn their attention over here to the shovels, we will do a groundbreaking for this new park and let the work begin as we continue to move Savannah forward. One, two, three.
Try it again. One more time.